So for this week's topic of discussion, I want to bring up three notable rising actors that most of you should be very familiar with, but if you don't, let me go through them one at a time. Glen Powell, Sydney Sweeney, and Ariana DeBose. All three of these people are really good actors. I mean, they have proven that they have a lot of potential in terms of how far their careers can go. So why am I bringing them all up here in this particular episode I'm doing? Well, obviously you saw the title, but these are three really good actors. However, they really don't know how to pick some really good scripts because, let's be honest, the last couple of years have not been kind in terms of good script quality and showing what these actors can really do. I mean, yeah, there's been some successes for some of them, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, yeah, what's more important, having financial success or actually making movies that actually you want to be proud of? I mean, so for this particular week, I want to cover all three of them, and I'll do them one at a time because each one of them is very, very unique in how they got to this point, how they all started off from kind of being unknown to becoming where they're at today, and maybe I can find a way to figure out how to fix a lot of these problems with the movies that they've selected recently. So let's start with the one that has actually been around the longest, but most of us didn't really know about until less than 10 years ago, and that was Glen Powell. Glen Powell is, of course, somebody who, we know him now for his work in Top Gun Maverick, Anyone But You. You may have seen him in Hitman, Twisters, but Top Gun Maverick was the one that really broke him out. Like, everyone knew who he was after that movie came out, but most people forget that he had been working for nearly 20 years before Top Gun Maverick came out and really propelled him to superstardom. I mean, his career began all the way back in 2003 in Spy Kids 3D Game Over. In that movie where he played the long-fingered boy. Had like a little cameo in there, but he eventually would go on to star in movies like Fast Food Nation by Richard Linklater. He appeared in Denzel Washington's The Great Debaters. He was in little films like The Hottest State, Jumping Off Bridges, and Jaw. Most wide audiences first noticed his presence in The Dark Knight Rises for a small role as Traitor Number 1. And he was even in The Expendables 3 with a role in that film. He'd also been in Ride Along 2. And then 2016, I think, is where his career really began to take off because he was in some really good movies. He played Walt Finnegan in Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some. He was John Glenn in the great movie Hidden Figures. And then he started showing up in movies like Richard Linklater's other film, Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood. Then came Top Gun Maverick. And then after that, everyone kind of knew who he was, and right away, as soon as that movie came out, he was in stuff like Devotion with Jonathan Majors, which admittedly is not a very good movie. In fact, you can kind of see that being the starting point for where a little bit of his downfall really began in terms of like the scripts he chose, because after that, yeah, he did have Hitman, which was a really good movie. Once again, Richard Linklater. I mean, Richard Linklater very rarely misses as a director, but following that, he did Anyone But You, and yes, I know that movie was a hit. I know it also had Sydney Sweeney in it, which we'll get to her in a little bit, but that movie was not very good because the premise wasn't that intriguing, and it was a movie that literally only existed because, hey, we've got these two notable good actors who are just doing nothing but being the stock romantic film couple. I didn't buy their chemistry in that film whatsoever, but evidently I was the only one that thought that because that movie became a blockbuster hit. And same can be said for Twisters, which I don't know why anyone wanted to do a Twisters sequel now, but apparently there was a demand for it, and I just don't get it. That movie was not very good. The first Twister was not even that good either. Yeah, it's got great visual effects, but visuals don't make the movie. And since then, not much. He's getting ready to do. He was actually before I even say what he does next, but he is actually attending the Moody College of Communications at the University of Texas in Austin, and he left there, but he's going back to finish his degree out, and supposedly he's going to do it by the end of this year. Which, hey, more power to him. And that's probably the reason why he's not doing a whole lot of work nowadays, but he's still doing work. He's got the Running Man remake coming up next with Edgar Wright, which, as much as I love Edgar Wright and as much as I like Glen Powell, that's a movie where I just get bad memories of the last time they tried to remake an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie in Total Recall with Colin Farrell, and how bad that was. But then after that, he's got the movie Huntington, which is a black comedy film starring him and also Margaret Qualley, which it could be good overall. I mean, he's got a good cast too, with Ed Harris involved in there. He's also done voice work in shows like Family Guy, Rick and Morty, Robot Chicken, and his probably the next big thing that's going to come out before The Running Man does is Chad Powers, which they showed previews for during the NFL playoffs, which is the show produced by Peyton and Eli Manning. It's based off the character created by Eli Manning, and it's going to premiere on Hulu later this fall, which definitely looks like it could be really good. So for me, with Glen Powell, he's the least of the three people that I'm worried about in particular, because, I mean, the guy shows that he's got a lot of charisma, and he definitely has a bright future ahead of him, and he has made one really good movie since Top Gun Maverick came out, and that's Hitman. But Anyone But You, Devotion, Twisters, it really does feel like he should be careful with the films he takes, because I feel like that these movies he's taking is just really just for the event picture status, and not the fact that this guy is a more than capable actor who could really have a bright future ahead of him if he takes some really good scripts and gets involved with some really good directors. But once again, I can't really. Is that just me? It's just more of a personal thing with me, because I really didn't like Anyone But You or Twisters. I thought they were really bad movies that completely wasted the talent of its leading stars in general. But again, we'll wait to see what happens with him. But that's Glen Powell in particular. Like I said, he's the least one of the three here that I'm worried about. But let's go ahead and move on to number 2 here, and let's go to his Anyone But You co-star, and that's Sydney Sweeney. Of course, Sydney Sweeney is most known for her work on HBO's Euphoria and also the first season of The White Lotus, which actually earned her 2 nominations for Emmy Awards that year. But she also has, before that, she did stuff like the shows Everything Sucks and The Handmaid's Tale, and was in the limited series Sharp Objects, as well as being featured in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which came out the same year Euphoria did. And then Anyone But You was the first real movie that really showed off her potential as a future superstar in the making. And a lot of people really began to take notice of her, mostly thanks to Euphoria and the fact that, it was that movie in particular where she and Glen Powell really were not big breakout stars, but yet they were able to make such a big hit out of that film. But then after that, the list of movies that she was in was not very strong. I mean, Madam Web, which is already a rough start there. Immaculate, which, I've actually heard it's not terrible, and it's just a movie that feels like we've seen this stuff before, done to death so many times before, and it just feels like it just feels like a lackluster nunsploitation film. And Eden, which I didn't hear get the best reviews in general. In fact, I actually saw that it got a lot of negative press especially for a film directed by Ron Howard. But then after that, you've got Echo Valley, and then The Housemaid coming up, which Paul Feig is a pretty good director, and he working with somebody like Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried, who's also in that movie. I'm really excited to see what he does with that. And then she's got the Christine Martin biopic film coming up with her as the leading role in that. I guess that's her big Oscar contending movie. But there was a period as after Euphoria ended its second season where she was just taking really bad movies after another. I mean, look at the list of films that she did after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. Nocturne, The Voyeurs, Night Teeth, Reality, and Americana. Yeah, you probably don't even know what half those movies are in particular. And I don't know. Like, to me, I like this actress a lot. I like her a lot. Yeah, she's a beautiful woman, but at the same time, she has a lot of charisma and actually has proven time and time again in other shows and movies that she's got a bright future ahead of her as an actress. But that triple whammy in 2024 with Madam Web, Immaculate, and Eden is just like, that's something I'm worried about with her. Like, I really don't think that they're picking the best scripts for her to star in. Like, I really feel like that the people, it's weird. Like, every once in a while you get these great actors and actresses, and then they have these stretch of movies where, like, they feel like that because the people that are leading the film or in the film are so good on their own merits that they don't even need to worry about writing a good script at all. They can save it on their own. I mean, a lot of actors go through that stretch. I mean, Julia Roberts went through that back in the day. Denzel Washington went through that back in the day. I mean, Harrison Ford had that happen. You know, a lot of people. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Robert Redford. I mean, so many names. The list can go on and on and on. In fact, most celebrities, I think, most actors and actresses have gone through that route. But yeah, like, that stretch in 2024 is like something where it's something to definitely be worried about. When the most notable thing you did in 2024 was showing up in commercials where you played the genie in commercials for Dr. Squatch. I mean, that's not a good sign going forward. But kind of like with Glen Powell, there is hope there for her going into the future. You know, these movies coming up, like I said before, Echo Valley, and especially The Housemaid, with a film directed by Paul Fahey, coming off of A Simple Favor, and the Christy Martin biopic. I mean, there's still definitely room there for her to grow as a leading actress, and hopefully she's going to pick better movie roles and hopefully there will be an opening for her to go down the route that somebody like a Jennifer Lawrence or even a Meryl Streep did, where she eventually becomes an Oscar winner in her own right, because she's one of those people that definitely, I think, deserves to win an Oscar for a really good performance in a movie, and hopefully that will happen sooner rather than later. But yeah, hopefully what we saw in 2024 with Madam Web, Immaculate, and also I can't remember the last one now, Eden. Hopefully that's something where it's in the past and she's going to start picking more bigger and better movies at this point. But again nothing too significantly serious with Sydney Sweeney yet, but that's just somebody I'm worried about in terms of the script she's picking out in general, and hopefully that somebody out there is going to get her some better scripts out there to work with. But let's go ahead and move on to the one actress that I'm most concerned about in terms of picking really bad movies and just ruining the reputation that she had coming off of an Oscar-winning performance in West Side Story. And of course, I'm talking about Ariana DeBose. Now, Ariana DeBose is definitely somebody who I am the most worried about in terms of, having that goodwill from after what she had gotten to get to that Oscar point, that high point of winning the Academy Award, and then just taking these really bad projects one after another. Of course, Ariana DeBose started her career off as a contestant on So You Think You Can Dance, and then eventually made her way to Broadway with stuff like Bring It On the Musical, Motown the Musical, and Pippin. And of course, she was one of the original cast members in Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton, and also appeared in The Bronx Tale, and actually was nominated for the Tony Award for her performance as Donna Summer in the Donna Summer musical. And then she ended up starring in film. She was in the Netflix comedy The Prom, and then came Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, which I've already said it before. It's one of the best movies of the decade so far. One of Steven Spielberg's best movies. One of the best remakes ever made. Everybody in that cast was so good. Rachel Zegler was great. Anson Elgort was pretty good. Mike Faist, one of the other big breakout stars of that movie. Rita Moreno. I mean, just a phenomenal, phenomenal cast. And one of Steven Spielberg's best movies in general. And then, of course, just like Rita Moreno won the Oscar for playing Anita in the original West Side Story movie, Ariana DeBose won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in 2021 for playing Anita, and I thought that was great. I thought to myself, okay, she wins an Academy Award. I can't wait to see what she does next. This girl's got a bright future ahead of her because she was great in that movie. She could sing. She's a beautiful actress, and she also is a really damn good actress. So what does she go ahead and follow that up with? ISS. Yeah, remember that movie? No, you don't. Wish, which, I don't hate Wish like everybody else does. I actually do kind of like it, but when you get a chance to star in a Disney movie, animated movie, where you're the lead in that movie, and doesn't become the big hit that everyone's expecting it to be, yeah, it's kind of hard not to get a little bit worried after that. Like I said, I like Wish a lot. It's actually like Wish more than most people do, but I'm not gonna lie that's not one of Disney's better movies, but animated movies. But then you followed it up with Argyle, which is one of the worst movies of the decade so far, and then House of Spoils. Remember that movie? I know, of course you don't. And then Kraven the Hunter, where she just shows up in a role that she doesn't even bother she can't even bother to speak the right way in that movie. I'm not even joking. There's a clip out there that's been out since Kraven the Hunter came out where Ariana DeBose is talking to Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, and I swear to God, you cannot. It doesn't even feel like she's saying these lines. Just listen.
Been trying to figure out what was in here for years.
My grandmother was kind of a mystic. She had a lot of crazy stuff around. My parents didn't like to talk about it, but she was a very powerful woman. She said it would heal whoever drank it in undreamed of ways.
Trust me, changed me.
Exactly. Look at what you became.
And if you can get any more.
No. She died not long after that trip, and I never saw her again.
A powerful woman. She said it would heal whoever drank it in undreamed. Look at what you became.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And then 2025 is not off to a good start for her either. I mean, to have a movie where she and Ki-Hoo Kwan are starring together as a couple in an action movie, Love Hurts, I was really looking forward to that film, and man, I was completely let down by that movie. That was one of the biggest disappointments I've seen in a long, long time. And yeah, that's one of the worst. That's unfortunately one of the worst movies I've seen so far this year, which really sucks. But to make matters worse, just recently, not even 3 days ago, or even not even a week ago, she found herself at the forefront of another controversy criticizing Rachel Zegler, because of course Rachel Zegler's been the butt of many people because of what she said during the promotion of Snow White, and she noted by saying narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged, which was of course posted by Jonah Platt, the son of Snow White producer Mark Platt. And after that, Ariana DeBose deleted her post and clarified she was unaware of the quote's origins or its connection to Zegler. She explained that she frequently shares quotes she finds meaningful without researching their origins and have no intentions on involving herself in the controversy. DeBose acknowledged her oversight and commitment to being more diligent in verifying the sources of content she shares in the future. Which, I mean, really? Like, it's amazing how low this person has gone in the time she won an Oscar for West Side Story to this point where, like, she gets involved in a controversy to basically turn on Rachel Zegler for what? What did she do? What did this woman really do except say that I hate the person that's in charge right now? Like seriously. Like, but that's a whole other thing altogether. But the point I'm trying to make here is that what has happened to Ariana DeBose in the last 4 years is one of the worst post-Oscar runs we have ever seen. I have not seen a run this bad since Louis Gossett Jr. Remember when Louis Gossett Jr. won the Oscar for An Officer and a Gentleman in 1981 and 1982, and everybody thought that this guy was going to go ahead and become the next great actor, like he was going to star in a number of great movies after that. But then you take a look at the films that he starred in after An Officer and a Gentleman, and needless to say that those films in particular have not held up well over the course of the time. These are the films he did after An Officer and a Gentleman: Jaws 3D, Finders Keepers, The Guardian, not the 90s Guardian with the trees, the 84 The Guardian, Enemy Mine, the Iron Eagle movies, all three of those movies, Firewalker, The Principal, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie, Toy Soldiers, Digtown, like, I mean, A Good Man in Africa. Like, he's even been in the fourth Iron Eagle movie that went direct to video. But other than it's like he has not done anything of noteworthiness since that movie came out. And the only is it says something when the last great thing that you had your name attached to. Actually, I'll take that back, because he was in The Color Purple, the recent Color Purple movie, and that was really good. And then he was one of the reasons I really liked If a lot. If was a really great movie that came out last year, the John Krasinski film. But before that, that's over 40 years of movies that are either forgettable or just not good at all. Like, that's like, it says a lot when the best thing that you did in that 40 years was an uncredited role in Blue Chips. And that came out in 1994. There's a number of bad movies on here. This guy was in Delgo. A movie I just talked about recently on time about the movies, like one of the worst animated films of all time. And again, it's not because this guy's not a good actor. Louis Gossett Jr. is a damn good actor, but man, was he picking some really bad movies. And Ariana DeBose, as much as I criticize her for some stuff that she has done recently, like, I still respect her a lot. I still like her as an actress. I still like her as a musician. I mean, she's proven that she is more than worthy of doing more great work after West Side Story. And it's just, everything she's picked since then has either been a flop or it's just not been a good movie at all. And it just seems like she's really just, it's like one of the, I mean, let's be honest. When you win an Academy Award, you pretty much have the guarantee to pretty much that nobody can ever take that from you, and you can pretty much end your career there. Like, if her career ended with West Side Story, with her winning the Academy Award, that's a great run. I mean, you could honestly say, like, I've got my Oscar, I'm done. I've completed my mission in life. But the fact that she keeps going and she picks these really, really bad movies or films that were just never going to make any kind of success whatsoever, it really bugs me a lot. And her next two films do not sound promising at all. You've got Toe, which is a film that I don't see any notable names in here. With names I recognize, like Rose Byrne is in this movie, as well as Dominic Sessa and Octavia Spencer, Demi Lovato, Simon Rex. But it's not got a big studio behind it overall. And Lear Rex is another one, which is a film that actually it's got a director on board that's notable, Bernard Rose, who did Candyman and Paper House, and a good cast overall, Jessica Chastain and Al Pacino, which hopefully this means that film gets a big release in general. But then again, Al Pacino hasn't made a lot of big studio pictures as of late, but the ones he does make are not really as memorable. Like, most of them go direct to DVD, so I hope that's not the case with this, especially with the cast that they have here. I mean, I don't know why it would, with Pacino, Jessica Chastain, DeBose, Rachel Brosnahan, Lakeith Stanfield, Peter Dinklage. If that goes straight to DVD, then clearly there's something wrong here with that movie. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, with all three of these actors, Glen Powell, Sydney Sweeney, Ariana DeBose, like, you gotta take it. You've got to. It's getting to the point where sooner or later you're gonna have to fire the people that are finding your scripts for you, or the agents that are finding your scripts for you, because there's no way that these people can be looking at these scripts and think to themselves, "Oh, this is going to be a great movie. This is going to be a great movie." When we've seen how bad these films have turned out to be, like, I'm doing this as a public service to tell these people, you gotta find better scripts than this. Like I said, Glen Powell and Sydney Sweeney, they haven't reached the echelon where they should be most worried about where their futures are going, but they're getting there. Like, Ariana DeBose, though, it's getting to the point where she really needs to figure out, like, what to do with the rest of her career. Do you want to keep taking these lesser films that you think are going to give you something that people that you think people want to see, or are you just really half-assing it now because you pretty much can do whatever you want now that you've got the Academy Award, and you're not going to try anymore? Which I hope that's not the case here. I hope that's not the case with any one of these people that I talked about. Just bottom line, just pick better scripts overall. Movies, stop wasting the talents of these actors on these terrible films in general. Just bottom line here is the moral of the story is just make better movies. Make better choices of which scripts you take, and don't waste your talents on some garbage piece of work that, just completely devoid of your true talents overall. Just make good movies. That's all we want from you, is to make good movies. Make good choices in life. But anyway, that's my thoughts on those three. Hopefully they'll have better career opportunities going forward. But that's all I wanted to say for this week here. Now, if you want to hear what I had to say about last week's topic, which was wondering if Siskel and Ebert were more wrong than right when it comes to their reviews, go ahead and check that video out in the corner. Check out the playlist down below so you can check out some of the other videos I've done. And I'll see you guys here next Monday night. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.